Hey everyone, I'm your host Asia Walker, where I have a fireside chat with a different influencer every week. Welcome to the podcast Diary of an Influencer. Hey everyone, I'm just popping on to say that this podcast was recorded before Christmas, which is why there's a lot of Christmas references. I didn't have a chance to put it up before Christmas, so that's why. Okay, enjoy.
So, hi Chikumo, welcome to Diary of an Influencer. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm all right, thanks. And you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I mean, not too bad considering it's a Sunday. Don't really want to go to work. Well, don't really want to work from home tomorrow, but what can you do?
I know, such is
How
life.
I know. How are things for you over in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, well, they've been all right, but we're in our, again, I've lost count. So I think we're in our 6th or 7th week of lockdown. So ours is a bit longer than England, but to be honest, I don't think things are going to change because by the looks of it, even for Christmas, it's still going to be very kind of tight. So it's the new normal.
Yeah, that's true. And are you guys doing like similar Christmas arrangements to what England is doing?
It's not even been announced, so literally no
Wow.
idea what they're going to say. So far, all we know is we're sticking to our kind of one social bubble, but other than that, literally no idea.
No. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I think Christmas will be weird anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, tell me more about kind of like your blog and your Instagram and also your businesses that you run as well.
Oh God, yeah, I do loads of things. So I'll start with the blog. So I started the blog, I think it was back in 2011-ish,
Wow.
but I started it not realising really blogging was kind of up and coming. A few people knew what it was, but didn't really know what it was, and I didn't know for a very long time that you could even earn money off it. So I initially started because I used to get friends asking me for advice, and I just found that different people were asking me for the same type of advice, or I'd know something that was going on in kind of like one friendship group, and then someone else would be asking me for something, and I knew that if I could just say that I knew what was happening,
Yeah.
it could solve the problem, whereas it didn't. So my blog's called Diary of a Chik, so it became kind of my online diary where I could talk about even the fact that for me, I was born in Zambia and grew up in England. So my friends used to find it very difficult as well when if I went to ask my parents for permission to do anything, go to the cinema or go out with friends, if my parents said no, it was a no. And my friends kind of just didn't get it. And the cultural aspect of it was really difficult to kind of try and explain. And I'd get quite upset about it as well. So I thought, well, again, if I can write it all down and get people to try and understand it from a different perspective, then it'll just make my life a lot easier. And then, yeah, as time went on, like I just used to talk about really random topics, but there were topics that were kind of very, like, you wouldn't expect, well, I must have been like the end of secondary school then, but you wouldn't expect, one of the topics was about like where you go after death and how different religions view that. So it was very kind of different to what you'd expect to ever see in general. And that's kind of what I loved about it. So as time went on, I kind of just put it to one side, and then when I moved to Northern Ireland, I decided, okay, let me put my business to one side. But I was so used to doing more than one thing that just going to uni wasn't enough for me. So I thought, right, let me restart the blog again. And then that's when I found out that you can actually get paid for it. So it's been, 5 years now? 4 or 5 years, getting to 5 years. And yeah, it's just kind of gone from strength to strength. So again, I normally talk about mental health, relationships, like interracial relationships. Again, it's still an online diary in the sense of anything that interests me, I'll talk about. Brands that I love, I'll talk about. And I'm lucky enough that I get to work with some of those people as well. And then in general, like I'm just a massive foodie. So I have 2 food businesses. One's mostly muffins where I basically just bake any kind of dessert, and I started that when I was 15. Wow. And then the other is, again, this was because I couldn't go to the cinema with my friends, and it was one of those things where I was actually allowed to go if I raised my own money, and Mum had been teaching me how to bake, so she was trying to be smart, and she was like, well, if you can raise your own money you can go, not realising that I'd been that proud of what she taught me to bake, the muffins, that I'd take them into school. And my friends were then like, okay, why don't you bake a muffin a pound and bake muffins, and then we'll buy them a muffin a pound. And yeah, I had 10 people at the time that were willing to buy them, And it just turned out that I really had a knack for baking, and obviously I loved
Yeah.
food in general, so if I could bake it, I could sell it. And then when the business was quite well established, I started consulting for a company in Sheffield and got to pitch. So I worked on their product development and their own products. And I then was the person that went into the supermarkets as well and pitched them. So at the moment, I think I'm still in 3 of the top supermarkets. Like the products are still there under their own brand, but you'd never know it was me. But at the time, I used to go in and pitch, and we'd have to take a gluten-free version that I'd worked on with the supermarket's own brand with gluten. And I just remember always thinking, it doesn't smell the way it's supposed to, it doesn't taste the way it's supposed to. And most people look at gluten-free and they're like, oh, that'd be rubbish. But you'd honestly pick the gluten-free cake because it was amazing. You could not taste the difference between a homemade cake and the gluten-free one. And I thought, well, I could do better. So when I was made redundant last year, I decided, okay, this is the time for me to do it. Kind of a few things fell into place that just happened to work out. And I launched the baking business, which is called Nina, after my mum, because I found as well that it's a very kind of generational thing. So my mum taught me how to bake. My grandma and like my mum's auntie, who's kind of like my mum, taught her how to bake. And then my grandma properly taught my auntie how to bake. So as you go back, you can kind of see it's definitely a family thing. And I think that's where you can see that everything comes together, because even in my family, like my dad's a chef, my brother cooks. So all of us are very kind of foodie, and it's kind of just shaped my life. No matter what I've tried to do, I've always ended up back on kind of the food side. And even now, like I've just become, well, I've gone fully freelance and as a consultant, but a lot of the stuff that I do marketing wise, thankfully because of the blog, also ends up being a lot of it is food based as well. So it all kind of fits in very well, rather than all being very separate and having to feel like I'm running 10 different businesses, because a lot of the stuff that I'll do for one will really match for the other.
No, that's great. I mean, my family is definitely the out of a packet type of family. We're more kind of cooks instead of bakers. I mean, I would love to learn how to bake when I'm older, but it's just kind of not my style. But I mean, I've definitely, I tried one of your mostly muffins boxes, and it was so good. And especially during lockdown, when people just need a little like something to keep them going, whether it's like a packet of sweets or a TV show or things like that. So it's great that you're doing, you've got a availability for kind of like postal packages as well, so that people in the rest of the UK can buy them. So that's a really good thing. And where do you see kind of like going forward your like blog side? Would you like that to become your full-time job, or would you like to go down the road of like baking more as your kind of like full-time job as things progress?
Well, to be honest, the blog's kind of now what's become my full-time job, because now I've started kind of the marketing consultancy. That is because of the blog, and all the skills and everyone I've worked with, and going forward, they're all people that I've either worked with through the blog or have seen what I've done through the blog. So the blog was kind of just that's now what I see as me as a brand. But the marketing consultancy side of everything is basically just an expansion of the blog, and just being able to offer even more services than I do on the blog, if that makes sense.
No, that's great. I mean in an ideal world, that's something I would love to do going forward. I think it's nice to have flexibility and kind of freedom and when you want to do things. And I guess it works kind of around people's lifestyles, and if you want to go out one day and work more another day, it's just, especially at the moment when kind of things are a bit weird and we're tending to work from home a bit more anyway. It just seems to work really well for you, so that's really good.
It's ended up being really handy, because I found obviously at the moment, obviously we can't travel anywhere, but I'd always said ever since I was like really young that I wanted to be able to work from basically a laptop, which meant I could travel the world and do what I wanted to do without anyone kind of telling me what to do. And it just happens to be this during lockdown it's happened, but I now know that going into next year, as soon as we can travel, literally it won't even matter. I could look at flights today and fly out tomorrow for a week, knowing that I can do the work that I need to do. I can plan everything ahead, and I can choose, like you're saying, you can choose when you work and when you don't, and I can choose where it's from as well, which is, it's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. When lockdown's over, where's kind of the first place you want to visit?
So my partner's just moved, well, in October, moved to Morocco. I'd love to go there. That'll kind of be like my second home. And then I was looking at Madeira in Portugal. It looks absolutely amazing. It's so beautiful, but it's quite cold there until kind of May, June. So other than that, someone else had said Lisbon's quite good, especially if you're like a solo traveller, because I've never really done the solo side of it before. But that's something that I really want to do going into next year as well. But for me, as long as I'm not looking at the same four walls right now, it really does not matter.
No, that sounds, I mean, those three places sound amazing. I've been to Portugal, but not Lisbon. And it's lovely in Portugal. I mean, the beaches are so nice, and you know, the food is really like fresh and flavoursome. And then I've also been to Madeira as well. I mean, it was like for a day, so I didn't technically see much of it, but yeah, it was really lovely there. So yeah, like kind of going back like to your blog and stuff, did your family and friends know about it from the beginning, or did you kind of keep it to yourself and then kind of reveal it as time went on?
My family didn't know, but a few friends kind of knew when I started it, because again, like I said, it was just because it was for advice and for general kind of chatter in between. I'd tell the people that I thought it was relevant to, and then I kind of started promoting it a little bit on socials, just to say, because I found that there were some things that maybe I'd be going through that someone else had read and like really relate to in my friendship group, and they were like, well, why don't you like put this out a bit more on social media? And I was a bit nervous at kind of doing that because no one really knew what I did. So I started, I used to probably post on Twitter and Facebook at first. And then as time went on, I'd noticed that every time I stopped blogging, because I just thought, no one's really interested. Like, fair enough, I'd get a few views, but I just assumed those would be the people that I knew. Yeah. And then every time I stopped blogging, like in between the few years, I'd get people messaging me that either I didn't know them, or I never would have expected them to even be bothered about it. And they'd always come back with the same kind of feedback, that something had helped them and they just really enjoyed writing, and it was kind of a bit of an escape. And that's kind of what made me realise that I'll always do it for fun. As much as I want to work from it and earn a living from it, it'll always be a passion project of mine, because the more honest I am and the more I share about it, the more people seem like I've created a little community of people that I know I can be completely honest with. I might not have ever met them, but at the same time, there are people I've met and people I haven't that all of a sudden have come together because they feel like they can talk to me and talk to each other because of the platform that I've kind of created. So yeah, even through that, my family then found out that I was doing it. And then obviously when it started paying, it became, because at first they just really didn't get it. We'd be sat in restaurants and I'd be taking pictures and they'd be like, what is wrong with you? Like, this is really embarrassing. And I'd be saying like, this is actually work. You need to realise that. But obviously now it's become more common for people in general to take pictures of food. It's funny because I'll only do it when we get there. I'll do it at particular times where I know that, right, get what you need and then be in the moment. Whereas my family wouldn't be in the moment. So I'd then say, well, I've got an excuse. I'm getting paid for this. You're not getting paid for it. So it's just ended up being that as time has gone on, they've kind of learned what it means to be a blogger and kind of the stuff that really helps me as well. So they've been really supportive once they've understood what was happening.
Yeah, I think definitely I agree with you there. I think when I first kind of like said to my mum, you know, I film videos and talk to the internet, and she was like, what? And you know, she didn't quite grasp the concept of me kind of just using a camera and then it actually goes out to like the world and stuff. But now she kind of gets it, and she's kind of like, so how many views do you have? How many people watch you? And it's kind of like, I'm like, well, it's different for each platform. And she's like, I don't understand that. So we just stick to the very basic stuff. But no, I completely understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I mean, food pages on Instagram can literally grow so quickly if you've got like the right kind of images and the right kind of places you're visiting. I've seen food Instagrams grow like really, really quickly. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind that, getting paid to go and visit restaurants. I mean, so when it comes to kind of like posting, do you have like a schedule, or do you just kind of do it as and when you feel kind of you want to do it?
So for the business side of everything, I'm seeing the business side. So I treat a Diary of a Chick, my like brand page, as just my page. Although it is business, I don't class that as a business page. But that one I don't schedule, but I really should, because I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but I kind of like that. I like that one to be more in the moment, because I found with the others I schedule, but you kind of get lost in, because everything's obviously so prepared that I feel like it's a lot harder to interact than it is if it's in the moment. So what I try and do with the other business ones is I'll schedule maybe 3 posts that I know just for consistency will always go out, and then days like today, I posted a reel, just of a video, just to show people, okay, this is what you can create from the baking mixes. So one of the most, like the biggest sellers for mostly muffins has been the sacral brownie, which is a cookie with Oreos and then topped with brownie. I don't know if you tried that one.
Yes.
But it is amazing, yeah. So that one, it's been a bestseller. But what I try and do is I try and create the baked version, and then I'll try and give people the baking mix version, so that if they want to try and make it for themselves and don't know where to start from, those are the basics, and then they can then teach themselves. But so today was kind of just more, okay, let's start the conversation and post this across the different channels whilst I'm free. But yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, it is tricky, especially when you've got several accounts that you've got to kind of keep active and stuff. What's kind of your favorite platform, like apart from your blog? What's your kind of like favorite social media platform?
I used to say it was Instagram, because I love the whole aesthetic of Instagram and just how it looks and feels. But it's been a bit annoying recently as well, like with algorithms and God knows what else. But I found that Twitter kind of, because I feel again that on Instagram, the more you expose yourself, because I'm a very honest person, and I think this is why my family as well were always worried about me blogging, because they know how honest I am, and the more honest you are, the more open to criticism you'll be. And I think Instagram is one of those places where people are very critical, and it's over very little things, whereas I found Twitter, you can just type whatever's on your mind and everyone's doing the same kind of thing. And it's been great because I can sell on there, I can be myself, and I can just post the most random stuff, and it just seems to work. That community side of it really is there. So I think at the moment Twitter's my favorite, followed by Instagram, and then Facebook. I don't use that enough as much as I should do.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't use Facebook. I always forget about that one. But that's interesting, because I would probably say the other way around. I'd probably say I find Twitter very kind of like savage sometimes. I would say some people on Twitter just like do not care. Whereas Instagram, I always feel like there's a bit of like, don't get me wrong, there's some comments that are awful, but I always feel like people kind of put a filter on, and most of the comments are quite nice. And it's more, I think on Instagram it's more kind of like the messages that are more kind of nasty, whereas on Twitter people will just say what they want to say. And sometimes I'm just sitting there scrolling through like, oh, okay, like you've had a bad day.
No, it's true. I think my side of Instagram has been more, rather than people commenting bad things, it's more how they then perceive things and treat you afterwards, which is really annoying. So rather than kind of calling you out and saying whatever they want to say, which I kind of appreciate on Twitter, because if anyone has a problem, like you're saying, even if they're being savage about it, they are saying exactly what they think, and you can address an issue there and then. Whereas I found on Instagram, people will have an issue, not say it, and then you'll find that it affects your life in different ways, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's a friendship group. There'll always be something where you just know that it's come from that platform and something that's been said, but it's not being addressed, which is, again, I always find a bit weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, social media can be very kind of like positive and negative. Especially I think for kind of like our generation, where I mean I still remember playing outside when I was little in the garden, and and my nephews kind of, they do kind of play in the garden, but they are very kind of like on laptops and stuff more than I used to be when I was younger. So yeah, I think it's a huge change now, and I think when I'm a bit older and have my own kids, I think I would quite like for them to have less computer time, because I know, how much I spend on it. Don't get me wrong, it's for my blog and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes I think it's way too much. And I think 2021 is something where I want to focus on trying to spend less time online and more time being in the present, like you said before, because I think this year, that's probably one of the things that has taught me kind of what I want to do more, is to spend more time with people and just interacting with people, because we don't know how long people have in the world. And I think yeah, it's just one of those things that's our generation sometimes forget to do. We're always like scrolling or on Twitter or whatever we're doing. So that's definitely something 2020 has taught me.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm the same as you as well. I think 2020 has been one of those years where you've kind of had to accept some very hard truths, and I'm getting to the end of the year and thinking, actually, my life is the way that I design it, and I can say yes and I can say no, and it's like you're saying, it's about being in the moment and doing more of that.
Yeah, definitely. So with your kind of like blog, do you have like an all-time favorite blog post, or do you have a couple that stand out to you?
To be honest, so the one that's been the most popular, which I never expected to be, I wrote it a few years ago, but it was when my parents, I dated before and my parents never met him, just they knew about him, but straight away were like, we don't like him, not going to meet him, he's not good enough.
Yeah.
And it was just really awkward, but I get it now. And then when my parents were introduced, well, when I started dating Sean, my mum and dad then said, okay, yeah, we agreed to meet him. So I wrote a blog.
Sean's your husband?
Oh, just boyfriend. No, he's not on it just yet. Yeah. But I wrote a blog. I think I called it "Introducing Your Non-Black Boyfriend to Your African Parents," and I didn't realize how much of a thing that was. And then all of a sudden, like, literally, it's been years, and it's still top by miles. So that was that one's probably my favorite, just because obviously people relate to it so much. But I really love the mental health ones, and I wrote one recently on like discussing depression with people and what depression looks like on different people. Because the first time I was diagnosed was when I was 18. So I'd failed my first year of A-levels, and literally just thought I was ill, like stopped having my period, wasn't sleeping very well, couldn't eat, the basic symptoms, but I just didn't know that that was depression. So I went to the doctor thinking, okay, there's something wrong with me, I need some antibiotics and then I'll be fine. And he was basically like, no, you're depressed. I can't be. And he was like, yeah. And then he didn't really explain it. And this is what annoys me about the mental health side of everything, because not only do people, there's still so much stigma that people don't talk about it enough. And then on top of that, professionals as well aren't always, I know most people try and do the best, but the way that they communicate isn't always great. So my experience was, you're depressed, here are some tablets, go and deal with it yourself. And I was like, what did any of that mean? What do these tablets do? How long am I supposed to be on them? What's supposed to happen? So this year, I think March time was the second time I'd felt the way that I knew that was the exact same feeling. And then probably the end of October, I started to feel that way again, and then realised that for me, the second time this year was more because of triggers. So I wrote about, like, I was trying to discuss it with someone, just trying to explain to them how I felt, because there are days I feel like I'm just existing, and then there are days I feel like I'm fighting to exist and just fighting to get through the day. And just even trying to explain the differences was really difficult. So I got really frustrated, and I went onto Twitter and started the conversation with a few people, and then loads of people then messaged me and started explaining what depression was like to them. And I must have got maybe like 20-30 people in the end that messaged me and kind of gave their own take on it. And for me, it was just amazing, because I'd gone through a period of kind of just really feeling alone, not because I was alone, but more because people just didn't understand. And then all of a sudden I had all these people saying, no, you're not alone. And then on top of that, this is the way that I feel, and this is the way that it looks like, that's how it looks to me. And then just to have a post that had that many people interact, and then that many people message me even afterwards saying I didn't know that that's what it was. Because a lot of the times, like I asked them, what does depression look like to you, and what do you hate hearing from other people? And a lot of it, the hate side of it, of what they hate hearing, was things like cheer up, things aren't that bad, look at the bright side of life. And it's like, it's not as simple as that. And I think just for people to see that in black and white and know that it's a lot deeper than a choice, because really, do you think people would choose to be depressed? You would not choose to feel like that. No. It was really great to kind of start that conversation. So I think personally that's my favourite one, just because of how much people have interacted with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in similar situation to you. I suffer with kind of anxiety and panic attacks, and I went down the same road as you. And this year, I've had kind of a downfall with that as well. And I've written several posts in the past about kind of how I feel and the symptoms I have, because I think everyone has slightly different symptoms. So it's good to know what each person is going through. But I think especially for our kind of generation, it's so important to talk about this stuff, because like we said earlier, with the pressure with social media, my mum and my nan never had that pressure with social media. I mean, I think a lot of people still had like mental health back in the day, but they didn't really talk about it, and that's why we had kind of like mental health hospitals and places like that. Whereas now I think because there's already that pressure from social media, and then you've got pressure from everything else like life, work, family, friends, or whatever, it just makes it a lot more, I think, essential for us to talk about it. And I still think, like you said, I still think there's definitely a stigma around it. I remember when I started kind of like feeling kind of like anxious and having panic attacks, people would be like, what's wrong with you, and my cousin, I remember one of my cousins, she'd be like, this is just the anxiety, it's taking over you, blah blah blah. And I was just like, well, yeah, it is, but I can't help that I feel this way. I can't necessarily change it. I mean, I've have had some therapy in the past, and that's definitely helped. But I think surprisingly, what's helped a lot is actually my blog and YouTube channel. I think whenever I sit down and write a blog post or record a video, I instantly feel kind of a lot calmer. So I think it's definitely been like a coping mechanism in a way, and it's kind of kept me grounded in a way. So it's definitely, I mean, it's crazy to think, you've almost been blogging for like 5 years, and I've almost been blogging for like 7 years now. So, and I think since, it's crazy, it's gone so fast. I still remember the first like blog post that I wrote. So, but no, I think it's amazing what you're doing, because depression is something that isn't spoken about as much as like anxiety, or it's as things like that. So I think it's definitely a really good thing, and I think a lot of people will definitely benefit from it, because sometimes I think when people like us, we talk about our experiences, it's nice for people to read an experience from someone that they don't know. I think sometimes, if I read something that my mum had written or my nan had written, it might not have that much of an effect on me because it's too close to home. Whereas if it's someone you don't know, you can be like, okay, well, I relate to them, we don't know each other, but we live similar lifestyles, and we still feel the same way.
Exactly.
So no, that's amazing. So are there any kind of like, what have you been doing during like lockdown? Have you got any like hobbies or TV shows that you've been watching, or like movies?
To be honest, my hobbies, does it sound sad, or is it a really exciting thing? So my hobbies have ended up being like what I do for business. So my hobbies would have been the blog, writing, just the therapeutic side of all of that. It would have been baking, it would have been eating. So I'm really lucky that my hobbies have become my business, because to be honest, over the last just over a year, I've been made redundant twice, and to be in a position where I'm lucky enough to say that my hobbies are now how I survive are great, because it feels like, even from the mental health side of things, even when I'm working, even if it's for a different client, I love creating content. So a lot of the stuff that I do is social media management and content creation, but just putting the music on and knowing that I've set up kind of my space to take pictures, to take videos, to do whatever I need to do, that always makes me feel so much better instantly. That's kind of become, it's not a coping mechanism. Work's always been like a way that I cope anyway, but I found that I enjoy that I can put it down to one side and pick it up again. But I'm obsessed with Friends, and Friends is just something that I have in the background. No matter what I'm doing, it's just in the background, because for some reason I still have it on Netflix as well, so it is constantly on. And then I'm really into like romantic movies, but I found the really soppy Christmas ones, especially kind of this last kind of down period, I've tried to kind of force myself to watch one or two each week, because I found that because they're so kind of happy and it forces you to smile, that it instantly picks me up. So I've watched so far in the last couple of 2-3 weeks, I've watched so many Christmas movies. It is unreal. Love them.
Do you have a favourite Christmas movie?
I actually see whenever people ask, I know Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie or isn't classed as one, but I love Die Hard. Watch it all like probably once a year. And then in general as kind of a favourite, I don't really have a favourite in general. I just like the whole genre.
Yeah, I mean, I love a Christmas movie as well, so I
Yeah.
can't I can't say I don't. I think also this year, I mean, I put my decorations up like November the 5th because I was just
Yeah.
like, we're going into lockdown in England, you know, I'm gonna have some sort of Christmas cheer, and the
Yeah.
tree is going up.
Yeah. Mine was supposed to go up, and then I thought I'll wait and do it with my friend, and then obviously then couldn't. And then I got to the point, I was supposed to do it yesterday, Mum and Dad were going to come over, and then all of us were just feeling really lazy. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
over the next few days to, like, week, depending on, because here as well, like, where I live, it's always really kind of grey and cloudy, and because of, like, there not being the sun now, and it's really dark early, like, I want to create content whilst I put the Christmas tree up as well. So I think I'm just going to find a day this week where if I wake up and it looks good, and then there's enough lighting, then, yeah, that's going to be me just decorating the whole house, and I am going above board. Like, I just want the place to look like it's someone's just blown a cannon up and it's Christmas everywhere.
No, that's great. I mean, for you, it kind of like is a double thing because you can like decorate your house so it looks beautiful, and then you can use it for backdrops for your products. And
exactly.
So that's, I mean, I would love that.
So handy.
And then you kind of like I see you've had like hampers, like Christmas hampers that you've created. So how are they going down? I guess they're going down quite well because people have a lot of time to bake at home now at the moment.
Yeah, they're doing really well as well because so I started them last year where I've always wanted to promote kind of local businesses and especially female owned. So I've used the same businesses last year as I did this year, but one of them is Bowden Park Coffee, which is owned by a woman named Orla. And from the actually, I didn't even meet her. So someone got, when I wanted to do the launch for the baking mix business, I needed a premises and like a kind of a cafe setting, and she owned one. And someone said, "Oh, why don't you get in touch with Orla? Like she's great, she's really lovely, and she supports smaller businesses." And yeah, that's how we got to know each other. And she's just been amazing. So I thought anything I can do to kind of give something back to her, because I'll honestly forever be in debt to her just for how nice she's been and kind of how many doors that she's opened. And then the other was Refuge Hot Chocolate, and they support a charity that is against human trafficking. And the photographer I work with, Sharon, did a lot of stuff for them as well. And I just remember looking at them at the time and just thought, again, female-owned business just gives back and is amazing, and the hot chocolate is unreal. So I thought, okay, let me do it last year, and they worked well, but then I was on holiday. So I thought, okay, this year I actually have time to plan and to properly like release them bit by bit. And they've been so popular as well because not only supporting local, which everyone wants to do now, but like you said, everyone is into baking right now. So even if you want to learn or you want to start from somewhere, just the whole pack means that you've got your dessert, you've got a coffee or a hot chocolate, and you can kind of just enjoy what's in the pack as you go through it. So yeah, so far they're doing really well. I'm really happy.
Oh no, that's amazing. I think a lot of people this year are trying to downsize on places where they shop and, you know, try and shop local and things like that, because I think, you know, times are hard. And I think if I was a local business person who had like a shop, you know, I would love for like local people to support me. So I think going forward, a lot of people will definitely try and shop locally instead of the big brands and big places. So yeah, no, that's great. So would you say that kind of like, although lockdown has been kind of up and down for you kind of mentally, I guess kind of when it comes to your business, it's kind of helped you to kind of reevaluate and see where you want to go kind of going forward?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, even though mentally it's been up and down, even through the down days, I think because kind of going back March time, when we were starting the first lockdown, I was already like really exhausted mentally. And before the whole Black Lives Matter stuff started, I wrote a blog on just feeling exhausted as like a black woman in the UK and the things that we have to kind of deal with. So I didn't kind of realise back then that I was starting this journey and basically deciding how my life was going to look forward, like going forward. And now I look back, as difficult as it's been, now all of a sudden, business-wise, everything's kind of, not that it's fallen into place, because obviously I've done the work for the last few years, and especially this year I focused on it, but just even having the days and the time when I'm not working to just sit and reevaluate everything and kind of where I want it all to go and plan how I want it to look and where I want it to be, even though I might not be there in the next year, just in the space of maybe 2-3 months, the difference has been phenomenal. So yeah, this year it's completely life-changing.
Oh no, I'm really glad to hear that, because it has been a difficult year for a lot of people, but I think, you know, a lot of people have definitely found ways to kind of make a living out of it. You know, we've got a local kind of like florist here in London, and they've completely changed their business around from being a florist, and now they sell like eggs, chicken, bacon, bread, like everything, and they're like a whole supermarket now, but not really a supermarket. And it's so incredible to see what businesses have been doing, and I think a lot of people's kind of like creative juices have been flowing, and I mean mine hasn't been, but no, I think you know, one of the reasons why I decided to start this podcast was because there's so many like bloggers and influencers out there who have amazing stories to tell like you, and I just want it to be kind of like more like spoken about, and kind of just to share your stories on something that's not necessarily your own platform.
Yeah, and I think because you're saying like your creative juices haven't been flowing, but even just from the first time that I found you on that group, it definitely has been, because everything from the perfumes, like the podcast, clearly it has been. I think sometimes as well, I'm glad that you've started this as well, because I think sometimes you need someone else to kind of show you how far you've come, and the fact that in your mind you think you're not doing anything, but someone looking on the outside in is going, oh wow, like I really admire what she's done, and the fact she's tried something different, and she knows what's working and what's not. Because I think you've got an eye that you don't realise that you do as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean one other reason why I've done this is because it's a bit of social interaction, even though we're not face to face. It's still kind of like having a conversation in a coffee shop or something like that. So I mean, you know, I have no idea when this whole thing is going to end, but I have a feeling that we're still kind of be in it kind of like early next year, so at least it just provides a bit of social interaction.
Definitely, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I liked about it was that I think most of the podcasts I've kind of looked into about, they're very like specific, and they're very kind of like girl talk or guy talk or parenting or cooking or whatever, and this is like very, very open. Like we've spoken about, you know, lots of things in this one kind of like episode. So yeah, and I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Me too.
So no, thank you very much for joining me. I've loved chatting to you, and you know, if I ever come to Northern Ireland, I would let you know, and if you're ever in London, let me know.
I will. Honestly, there's so many great places to see and great places to go for food, so yeah, it'd be the perfect date, especially knowing that you're someone you can get content with as well.
Exactly. I mean, it's like hitting two birds with one stone.
Exactly.